I call to order this regular select board meeting for Thursday, January 26, 2023. It is 6 p.m. Are there adjustments to the agenda? I would like to add an executive session for an employment discussion at the end. Did you have anything, Brad?
Yes, I have a request from the Energy Committee regarding a project they're working on for ground source heat pumps. And basically, I just emailed Bob and Patty a short letter. They're requesting, I guess, that you authorize me to sign this customer release and consent form so they can share information with Efficiency Vermont, but we can add that to the end of the agenda if you'd like.
Okay. That would be good. Either of you have any adjustments or requests?
If we get to the point about the Route 15 question, I'd like to have it if the public is available and like to weigh in, have the ability to comment during that time.
Good, thanks. Patty, you have anything?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay. Then with those adjustments, we accept the agenda as printed with those additions. And we begin with an opening public comment period. And I don't know if there's any public comment that wants to be made. It's pretty sparse in here. And seeing no public comment desired, let's move on to the first item on the agenda, which is town meeting. And, you know, part of the debate is whether we have an option of having an in-person town meeting and we have the option of not. And we need to make a decision on that. And I think that we can do that. I requested that Deb Moore, our health officer, be involved in this discussion. And I see Dan Mance is here as the town moderator. That's very appropriate as well and a real benefit. So we will, you know, open the discussion.
I could just add that there's 4 different draft warnings in the packet. So it'd be appropriate, I guess, to decide which route town meeting, the forum of town meeting, and then two of those warnings will be eliminated.
Correct.
Well,
so I think that would be the first item that we need to discuss is if we're going to be in person, because that informs what we're going to do with the other actions that follow. Bob, you had something?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we hold town meeting in person to open up discussion.
I can add to that. I second it.
Okay. Actually, a board member, oh, thank you, Deb, for that opinion.
Can I just talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I'll second that motion so we can put it on the table. And Deb, you have the first voice. Please talk.
Okay. I think where we are at right now, I feel as a healthcare professional and individual that we're at a point where it's a personal choice to be home or out in public. And if you're out in public and you want to wear a mask and you want to do your due diligence, I think that's perfectly fine. And we've been doing that for quite a while now. And I think it's really important to have a town meeting where people are together and can voice their opinions. I think it's the health risk is an individual thing. There's flu out there. There's COVID. We're going to get a COVID vaccine, I heard, on the horizon. But I just think that it's an individual choice, and people need to do what's right for them. And we need to move along. And, I don't mean to be cavalier about it because I know there are risks, and it's just where I'm at as our town health officer and as an individual too. And I didn't know if Dan had anything he wanted to add with his expertise.
Thanks. Sure. And Deb, I agree with everything you said there. I think having done town meetings the last couple of times as virtual meetings, and then have everybody just go and do an Australian ballot, basically informational meetings the night before, and then have everybody just go and vote by Australian ballot. You really do lose that tradition and that opportunity that in-person town meeting has afforded us, in this state for many years. And so I think if we can get back to that, I think it's good. And I tend to agree. I think folks can wear masks if they choose. Everybody's had opportunities to be vaccinated. I think the choice to come out is personal as well. And I hope a lot of people will come out this year if we do it in person.
I don't hear the statements being interpreted as being cavalier. Instead, I see a lot of, a hope involved and a desire to move on. Although we move on with scars and we move on with cautions, we move on. And I hear that loud and clear. And, I know the problem is that, the biggest con and was for the last couple of years is that only a handful of people would have made all these big decisions on the budget. And, that is a perennial problem, actually. And somehow we need to figure other solutions for that so that we can get people involved. So I came into this meeting fairly flexible and open to hearing, different sides of it. And I, hear a lot of wisdom in what the two of you have said. And I'm wondering if any of the other board members want to weigh in their opinions, and the others of you too.
Yeah, Dan, this is Patty. If I may jump in, I'm definitely I'm flexible either way, whether we do it in person and have the town meeting, and I totally agree the richness of the town meeting is ideal. At the same time, I'm worried about flu and just general colds that are, wreaking havoc on many people right now. And I just wonder if Deb had any information on maybe not necessarily COVID statistics, but just, you know, general health of folks getting the flu, and there's been a wave of a pretty nasty cold going through. And if we did an in-person meeting, do we risk any of the population, especially the elderly, coming and being exposed, or they just don't come because of that concern? So I just was wondering if Deb could chime in on that.
Patty, I don't have any actual statistics on that, but I know colds are out there. It's huge. Not really flu, but everybody seems like a lot of people have a cold. And in saying that, I think that if you want to protect yourself and you want to wear your mask, and I think that's the way to protect yourself. I really do. And I know COVID is still out there, but there's a lot of colds. I mean, I took care of my grandson today, and he's 2, and he's runny nose, cold, everything. But everybody's got it, and we just got to know how to protect ourselves, I guess. It's like any other season, and I guess I don't know what to say about what that means to the town meeting. It just means if you want to come to the town meeting, wear a mask, sanitize your hands, keep your distance. I don't really know what else to say, really.
Patty, you have your hand up?
You're
You
on
didn't know,
mute.
you're muted. Now you're upside down. How are you doing that?
You're still muted.
Bear with me. I'm on my iPhone and I'm turning myself right and left and apparently doing strange
That's how you
things.
got upside down.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just was curious if anybody from staff had any concerns or thoughts. I would like to hear if there were anybody that from the staff side that had thoughts.
I would defer to Sherry because she's there all day long for the election.
I really don't have anything to add. It's more selfish than anything, but other than that, I think in person would be perfectly fine. We just educate people about masking up if they're uncomfortable with it. So
Okay.
I'm good with it.
As the maker of the motion, I would speak in favor of it, and I think that maybe we could put a little blurb, of a different color if possible, to kind of highlight that, this is our first time going back to in person, and to remind the residents of, best practices, for, being around people, and if they wish, to wear a mask, and we can see if we can maybe provide masks, at the entry point of the meeting, and some, hand sanitizer, that type of thing, and, make that available to people that, and just, you know, use best practices that are defined by the Vermont Department of Health. And, I would be in favor of trying to get back to a normal town meeting.
That's a great idea, Bob. I support that 100%. I think that's the way to go.
Jen?
Oh, thank you. Let me put my hand down. I just wanted to chime in and say that are we going to have any remote ability so that if there are people who have, fear or reasons to not come to town meeting, but they want to participate, will there be any kind of hybrid ability or live component like through YouTube Live or anything like that, so that, if somebody's sick but they want to participate, they can? Or is it the same as if they were sick anytime and you snooze, you lose?
I wondered that too, Jen. Is it either or? I mean, we've typically, have we done this in the past where people could remotely engage, or is it
Deb,
just?
there's a clear answer to that, and our moderator is ready to answer that.
Yeah, it really is an either or, that the statute as it was passed by the legislature here and signed by the governor recently doesn't allow for hybrid. It really is either informational meeting and then an Australian ballot, or an in-person meeting. And I will also put my moderator hat on and just say, managing a hybrid with people in the room, and people wanting to talk, wow, that would be my worst case scenario. I understand the logic, just logistically very, very difficult to make work and not allowed.
I would assume also that we would have to get the BCA heads together too, and how to design the voting so that it's different than, or you don't think that is necessary, Sherry?
We would continue as we have in the past with town meeting in one direction and voting down the length of the gymnasium. The only thing the BCA would do is change either having voting at Browns River or we have voting at the town hall. Those are the only two options they have to changing anything up. But we keep the distance. We're trying to keep the distance in the direction of the voice one way and voting another. But we can certainly talk about that next week when we have the BCA meeting.
That would be good. We can just make the decision tonight, and then we can do a lot of planning that we need to do and the framework around that plan. Is there any other input or discussion before we take a vote on this motion and move on? What? Jennifer.
Thank you. One last question. So I just, because it's been so many years, my brain doesn't work. So if you are a resident and you want to have your voice heard about the budget, you have to be at town meeting, period. There's no voting by mail, no absentee, anything. If you want to vote and have your voice heard on this budget, you come to town meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I don't know, for everybody in the audience, the only thing we do from the floor at town meeting, it's kind of different from some towns. Cambridge, for example, does everything from the floor. They elect officers from the floor. They do every single bit of business from the floor. The only business we do from the floor is to elect a moderator, hear the reports of the officers, and to pass the budget, and to talk about any other non-binding business thought proper. And those are the items, and that's the essence of town meeting. Without having those discussions and that decisions made from the floor, there's no real need to have town meeting.
We
After
do
hearing all the
always have,
discussion,
we always have informational meetings, hearings on the budget, and, making it clear that this is the opportunity that people have to ask questions and get clarification on the budget and other things that we might have hearings on. Um, we can beef those up and promote them as an opportunity to participate.
One thing I might just add, Dan, in this Act 42, and is what I didn't realize until kind of this morning, but this act actually, it also extends the remote meeting privileges that we have. It extends remote informational hearings, and it does so until July 1st of 24. So this is really affects 2 town meetings. But obviously the discussion is about this town meeting, but I just wanted to throw that out there that this provision is actually for,
Yes, the same law will be in effect for next year as well. Right. I think to go back to that question about the input on the budget that Jen asked, it really does seem to me that when we needed to go to Australian ballot, that was the element that really changed. That, you know, when you have the in-person town meeting, that is a resident's opportunity to come forward and say, no, I think we ought to knock that line item down $500, or we ought to, you know, we ought to be willing to pay more for this service or whatever. And I think, you know, when you went to the Australian ballot, all that input had to be done up front during the building of the budget, and people did not have the opportunity to persuade their neighbors and citizens in person at town meeting. That's really what changed.
Well, I would, unless there's any other points, I would like to call that question so that we can vote and move on to the other planning that we need to do around town meeting. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Patty's muted. You're muted, Patty. I think you're saying aye, but not sure.
Right. Oh boy.
No, we heard you there. You were unmuted for a second and now you're muted again.
I don't know what's going on with the.
You're good. You're good.
Me? Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Hearing none of that, the ayes have it 3-0.
So I just want to thank Deb for, I kind of called her at the last minute and she was nice enough to show up tonight. So appreciate it, Deb. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Deb.
Yes, thank
Appreciate
you all. And
appreciate your presence.
thank you. I look forward to town meeting in person.
Yes, have a good gathering.
I am. I'm eating my dinner now. Bye-bye.
So given that, I sent out a revised packet because Sherry and I noticed there was a little flaw in the warnings that we had prepared yesterday. So the only 2 warnings then to be discussed are option number one, and option number 4.
Before we get to that, I want to make sure that we were correct with the budget. So if we could, it will affect the warning. So, Dan, I think we need to. Uh, I'd like to ask a question of Jennifer, Brad, and Sherry to make sure that we incorporated sufficient funds in the budget for the highway road commissioner position, because we were hearing feedback from them that we did not have sufficient funds in there. So does the budget that is presented have that encapsulated into it to account for that additional money required?
Yes,
You're muted.
it is, and I can't pull it up right now. I don't think. Hold on, it might be on this computer. It is in there. And if you bear with me 1 second, I will tell you.
Oh, I mean, it's okay. I just want to make sure, like, we didn't lose that focus. And if we did, and you're good, I'm good.
It's in there for 65,220 plus benefits, and it's part of that highway total wage and benefits.
Thank you.
It's under line item 220, and there is a 14%, 14.2% increase, and the small print says with COMM, and I believe that that would be earmarked. And that's your notation, right, Jen?
Perfect, thank you. So I'm sorry to go off track a little bit, but go ahead with the warning discussion. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that we had that.
Thanks for your input and your wanting to check it out. Yeah, I just want to note for the public record that the budget was approved, so we're not opening up all kinds of things with that question. It was just a clarification, and just so that the public knows, or whoever's watching this later, that at the last meeting, um, I'm forgetting the date, that we did approve the budget as it is, and the warning then would be correct, that we are now going to approve as an article.
So I can just state that the warnings are identical. Option 1 and option 4 are identical with the exception of that Nate wanted to include in Article 8 the word 20-ton trailer. And in the first option, we basically just said, shall the voters authorize the purchase of a trailer to replace the 2005 trailer for mobilizing heavy equipment? So I'm not sure why Nate really wanted to add the 20-ton part, maybe to make it clear that it's a substantial trailer and not just a small sort of thing. I'm not sure, but those are the only differences in the warning.
So would it be appropriate to demonstrate what the tonnage of the trailer that we're going to replace is? So if we are buying a piece of equipment that may be heavier than what the existing trailer is allowed to have, then that would also justify the rationale behind going after this new trailer that's rated for 20 tons. If the new piece of equipment, if approved, is too heavy for the old trailer, plus it's going to have to, I mean, that can be part of the discussion that it's in need of repair, and we felt that it was time to replace it and not put the money into repairing of the old trailer. Would that be appropriate, or is that like going to be too convoluted for um, the article?
Too confusing for the article. I think the important thing that Nate added was that to make it clear in these articles that we're replacing equipment that we already currently have. We currently have a 20-ton trailer. We don't need a trailer that's heavier than 20 ton with the excavator we're buying. I guess it does no harm to add the 20-ton portion. So we just presented it both ways.
Patty,
Can't hear you, Patty.
you're muted, Patty.
Still muted. Nope, still muted, unfortunately. You want to type it into the chat?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm having internet issues, and when I push the button, it's like a 10-second delay before when it happens. Is there any, generally, I am thinking about voting items to be less specific and not include tonnage. Like, for an example, if the tonnage came out slightly more, would that preclude us from purchasing a slightly heavier trailer for the exact same price? So I'm thinking if you are very specific about the wording, you pigeonhole yourself into picking an exact item based on the wording of the ballot. Otherwise, you're not in compliance with the vote.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but that would maybe bind us if, you know, suddenly we had something else and, but we couldn't purchase it. And I think that the word heavy equipment, um, it makes it redundant because you're already describing the fact that,
Exactly.
yeah, we're asking for a big number and, or the reason is it's a heavy equipment trailer. It's not one that you use to take to the drop-off center. So, you know, I, I think that perhaps adding that is a bit redundant when I look at it and hearing your comment, Patty, that helped.
Okay, thank you. And I agree. I think the words mobilizing heavy equipment captures the essence of what the purchase is going to be about. It's a large trailer.
Now, a point of order, did we already vote on this article as it's written, or are we voting on the articles tonight?
We're trying to pick I'm sorry, my mic wasn't on. The goal here is to whittle us down to one warning, right? So the two warnings are identical. Once we choose the one warning we're going to hone in on, then you should read the entire warning, each article for discussion. But we just need to make it to one article. And I think Bob has his hand up.
Yeah, can we just move on option number 1? I think that will take care of it.
Can we be clear on which option we're voting on? Like, what PDF page am I looking at?
So if your bookmarks are open, Patty, on the left of the PDF, yep, you can click on option 1, option 2, option
Okay.
3, option 4. We're looking at
Okay.
option 1 and 4 in the revised packet.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful, Brad.
Do we move on each one of these articles separately, or?
I don't think that's necessary, but I guess if the consensus is to
Yeah.
go with option 1, then you could read the articles down the line and then make a motion to accept the warning, I suppose.
So all of the other articles we don't have to discuss. That was the only one.
That's the only one that's different in the two. So only 2 of these warnings are on the table. But if the consensus is to use option 1 here for discussion, then we've narrowed it down to one warning. You can add things to the warning, but we've done a lot of work to make sure that, I think we've got everything covered.
Would you like me to read the warnings, or?
Well, if the consensus is to go with option 1,
Yeah.
then yes.
Yes, please read them.
Okay, I can read them. So the warning starts out. Maybe it's appropriate to have Dan read them.
I'd be more than happy
Would you be happy to? Would you like to?
I'd like
Yeah,
that.
no, I got it here. We could consider this a warm-up preview.
Yeah, yes, I would like your moderation hat to be on.
All right. So I think what's under consideration here is for the articles of the official warning of the Town of Underhill's annual March 7 meeting, in order to read Article 1 to elect a moderator for the ensuing year. Article 2 to hear the reports of the town officers. Article 3, shall the voters approve total general fund expenditures of $1,383,026, of which $1,173,656 shall be raised by taxes, $209,370 by non-tax revenues pursuant to 24 VSA section 2664. That's town budget. Article 4, shall the voters approve total highway fund expenditures of $1,811,560, of which $1,636,560 shall be raised by taxes, $175,000 by non-tax revenue pursuant to 24 VSA section 2664, and then to transact any other Article 5, to transact any other non-binding business thought proper when met. Then the Australian ballot questions, which would just get moved from the floor, and then people would vote on them in the Australian ballot. Article 6, to elect all town officers and school directors as required by law. Article 7, shall the voters authorize the purchase of an excavator to replace the 1997 excavator and borrow an amount not to exceed $286,000 for a term not to exceed 5 years pursuant to 24 VSA section 1786 paragraph A subparagraph B. And then Article 8, shall the voters authorize the purchase of a trailer to replace the 2005 trailer used for mobilizing heavy equipment and borrow an amount not to exceed $45,000 for a term not to exceed 5 years pursuant to 24 VSA section 1786 paragraph A subparagraph B. That would be your warning.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Motion to approve what Dan just said. Dan Mans.
Patty, can you hear me?
Yes.
Ken, Patty.
Okay, my video is not working, but hopefully my audio is.
It is, and you always have the option to use the phone number too, if you get
Okay.
into real trouble.
So Patty, you second that?
Sure, I'll second that. That's the warning, the first option.
Yes.
It is what Dan Mance just read.
Yeah, and what I just read is the first option as it appears in your packet, I believe.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the warning, which includes, all of that was just read? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Say nay. Hearing none. The motion passes 3-0.
Excellent. That's all we have to do, or all you have to do. So it's 6:38, and the next item on the agenda is to discuss and consider requesting admission to the Chittenden County Communication Union District. And the acronym for that is CCCUD, for Chittenden County Communication Union District. So this is a newly formed district. The towns voted at their respective town meetings to form this district. It includes, I believe, South Burlington, Colchester, or actually not Colchester, South Burlington, many of the Chittenden County towns, with the exception of Underhill, Jericho, Colchester. Jericho has just signed on to the Union District, and I've included in your packet, since they're just barely forming. So their first organizational meeting was on the 5th, but I included in the packet for your review is their basically governing board bylaws and their conflict of interest policy. Then I included the statute that refers to communication union districts and admission of district members. And basically the statute outlines that, if the legislative body was interested in joining this communication union district, we would submit in writing a request to do so. I have an example that Jericho did. So as I say, they're fairly new. They're just barely organizing. So Patty may know a whole lot more than I do.
I would like to lean on Patty's expertise,
Bob has his hand raised. I'm sorry.
and Bob also has his hand raised.
Yeah, if I can just jump in really quickly. So the Chittenden County Communication Union District, as Brad just described, is in the very beginning of organizing and getting its stuff together. From my seat on the Vermont Community Broadband Board, we have not received a proposal from them, but that's because they've just formed and they're getting their all their ducks in a row to start asking for grants and beginning the process. My opinion is it makes sense for Underhill to join this CUD versus others because it is the geographic county of which we are located in. In the event later on it makes sense for us to work with somebody else, we can still do that. We can work with Lamoille County CUD or others if it makes sense to do that. At this point, I do think it makes sense for us to join the Chittenden County CUD, and I guess I'll leave it at that for now. There's other questions.
Bob?
Thanks. I'd like to make a motion that we move to join the Chittenden County Communication Unified District.
I'll second that.
Is there any more discussion than what we've already had?
I guess the
Yeah, I
only
just
thing that I might. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Patty.
I do have a question.
I want to make sure that I'm on the record to know that I'm on the Vermont Community Broadband Board, which is a board that is in charge of allocating funds for broadband deployment. I don't see that I'm in a conflict of interest, but I want to be clearly transparent on that. If anybody is concerned, I'm happy to step aside from the vote.
I did have one question, Dan.
Okay, go ahead.
So does it make a difference where the telephone exchange office would be? And I guess I'd gear that towards Patty. As the telephone exchange is on Park Street, and if Jericho is going towards the Chittenden County Communications Unified District, it seems like if this is going to impact where that telephone exchange office is in the middle of Park Street, it seems like that would make a lot of sense for me to want to join the same communication district as the town of Jericho, and plus the telephone exchange office building is on Park Street.
I'm actually not clear as to the location of the telephone exchange and how that would impact the rollout and deployment of fiber, Bob. But what I have asked specifically of the VCBB staff is, for the town of Underhill, does it make sense that we join the Chittenden County or Lamoille or some other CUD? And have been told on a number of occasions that it really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, if we join the Chittenden County CUD, it makes sense technically for us to be a part of another CUD. The CUDs can manage that and split off parts of towns or the entire town and make that judgment call as to where it makes sense for us to be technically for the infrastructure rollout. I think it makes sense for us to stay with the Chittenden County CUD because we're going to be faced with similar issues as all the other Chittenden County towns, where some of the town population is served by high-speed internet and other parts of the town are not. And I think all the towns have a commonality with that, and I think that makes sense for us to join that CUD.
Eddie, I appreciate your full disclosure prior. And as chair, I want to say that um, my observation is you stand no reason for any personal gain in this, but I appreciate your expertise in this area and have valued your input and would value your vote on the topic, given the fact that you gave that disclosure for the public record.
Yeah,
Is
thank
there
you,
any
Dan. And
other discussion?
just to reiterate, I personally have no personal gain in which CUD or any CUD that Underhill joins.
I guess, Dan, if I could only just, I understand Bob's motion or his, the intent of the motion, but I think as I pointed out in the statute that's sent, I guess maybe a suggested motion would be to authorize me to write a letter that we could then approve at the next meeting to the Chittenden County CUD requesting admission. So it's up to them whether they accept us or not.
So as the maker of the motion and as the second, are you willing to adapt the motion to reflect what Brad just said?
Absolutely. Yep, no problem.
And I'll second that as well.
So all in favor of authorizing Brad to write a letter to the Chittenden County CUD and request engagement, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes carry the motion 3-0. Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, thank you. I think that was a great decision. So we're catching up here at 6:47, and the 2023 well monitoring estimate was in your packet. Basically, it's up, I believe, a couple $100 from last year. Let me just look back. Again, this firm has been doing it for a long, long time. They have all the background data. I believe we talked about it before. It'd be my recommendation to sign the estimate or authorize me to sign the estimate, I guess, since it's addressed to me, but whatever your pleasure. Let me find out what we put in the budget for this year. Yeah, we have the exact number in the budget for this year, 93,330.
I'd move that we authorize Brad to sign the letter from Ross Environmental Associates to have them continue monitoring our wells that we have that they've been doing a good job at for many years.
I'll second that.
Dan, you're muted.
He knows Bob Ross is a class guy who does a great job, and I am supportive of this motion and look forward to more business with him. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the ayes carry this motion 3-0. Thank you, Brad, for writing that letter.
No problem. So just like that, we're a minute ahead of schedule. So I included in your packet an email correspondence I had from Joy Atherton, and I believe she lives in Westford. If you're not familiar with Roy Drive, it's just north of Cloverdale. Um, Trying to think of some landmarks. Scatcherd's Pottery, just south of Scatcherd's Pottery on the Westford Underhill town line. It's a road that heads westerly and then forks. The left-hand fork goes into Underhill. The right-hand fork goes into Westford. So I believe Joy is from Westford. I believe she's here tonight with us, Joy Atherton. I shared her email in your packet.
Joy, is there anything you'd like to add to what you wrote down and give us any other information?
Uh, I guess I've lived here for about 16 years on this road. During that time, I mean, there's been a lot of changes, just a lot more traffic, more businesses around the area. And so when I tell people where I live, they're like, "Oh, you live in the S curve," and I was like, "Yeah," and it's like going 50 through there. So it's like it's very much a hidden drive. And so our neighbor the other morning, it was weeks ago, but their teenage daughter tried to pull out of their driveway across from us. And I was lucky that I just missed the accident. And she got totally clipped, what they call going towards, she goes to Mount Mansfield. So she was going that way and crossed it and got it straight on from somebody coming around that uh, jetty, that corner. And so since being here, I've seen my kids' school bus signs. Westford doesn't let the kids cross 15, thankfully. And, people gumming up and trying to stop in time for the school bus or even running the stop signs when the flashing lights are on because it's too fast of a speed limit for somebody to respond. And so I'm just like the other morning, I almost slipped out in traffic and I was like, oh my gosh. And I had my two kids with me. And I was like, you know, what if I actually did? People are coming fast from both directions because it's hidden both ways.
I think you muted, Dan.
All right, can you hear me good? Okay, so my name is Emery Roy, and I live at 910 Vermont Route 15, which is across the street from Joy over there. So a lot like what Joy is saying, I'm here actually for this exact kind of subject. I will say that Roy Drive is probably worse than mine by a small margin, but a margin nonetheless. So yeah, Joy, my daughter was the one that was in the accident on December 6th. So we have been there now for 24 years, and it's the same response, to not regurgitate exactly what Joy is saying, is the response time from anybody, especially coming from the Westford side, they don't have any response time. So reducing that speed to some degree was something I think that everybody should investigate for sure. I think that for on Roy Drive, when people are coming from the Essex side, it's almost a little harder because they can't see that driveway. So yeah, exactly. I think I'm here just to kind of say the same thing that Joy's saying. I've been there 24 years. My wife and I sat there and calculated, we've had 11 total accidents. My daughter's was pretty dramatic. Obviously, she's not driving anymore at this point. She's kind of going through some therapy at this point. So, and a lot like Joy actually said, it's interesting that when people are coming to visit my house, they all say the same exact thing. Holy crap, watch that driveway. So it's a brutal area. And I think it's definitely worth an investigation from the state and the town. Let's take a look at what we can do.
I think it's very clear, though, that the town has no purview on a state highway.
Right.
Zero.
Right.
So, but I think what Joy was suggesting was a letter of recommendation or a letter to inquire. I just wanted to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I reached out to the
Bob?
state highway department and I was like, this is what happened. This is what I witnessed. My kids were very worried about your daughter. And I was like, yeah. And I was just like, oh, my heart was like, whoa, and it shook everybody up around this area that happened. And we don't want to see a fatality. A fender bender is one thing, but we don't want to see anybody get hurt or killed. And I know engineers have come when they did the construction out here on 15, looked at it and was like, they're like, well, it's typical of Vermont, but at the same time, it's like, this is not safe. They can't do it. So the only thing they told me was the fact that we could have the select board request them to do a speed study. And I guess, and I said, okay, well, let's do it that way, because if you don't drive the road every day, then you don't really get the gravity of the situation.
Bob, did you have input?
Yeah, I'd like to thank both Joy and Mr. Emery for coming in tonight. I know it's not easy to come to these meetings. They can be long-winded, and we try to get through a lot of stuff. I'd like to request that we engage the State of Vermont Department of Transportation to see if they would be willing to conduct a study. And go from North Underhill Station Road to the Underhill Town Line or to Wildberry Lane to see if there's anything that can be done in that particular area to enhance safety on that particular section of Route 15. I don't think it will harm anything to ask. Whether they do it or not, I think that's going to be largely up to the state because it's their road. But I think we could certainly ask if we're hearing from residents that it's a concern. Then I think that our duty as members of a governing body to listen to the residents and try to facilitate those types of requests. And I don't see any harm in doing that. So I would move that we would do that.
Just a suggestion too to Joy, it'd be probably stronger if you got the support of the Westford Select Board. The town
Yeah,
line
I can
is
reach out
very,
to
very
them.
close to the town line is very close to Joy Drive and Roy Drive rather. I'm sorry. But the Underhill legislative body only has the right to request anything in Underhill. We
Yeah, I can
don't
definitely
dictate
reach
what
out to
Westford
them.
does.
That certainly would add credibility to our request. Did we get a second on that motion? I can do that if Patty didn't do that, so that we can vote on it. I appreciate the two of you coming in. The length of time you say you have lived where you live, pulling out on that road, you've seen a lot of changes, and there's a whole lot of traffic, and you're right about the speed. I suppose when you first were pulling out on that road, it, it wasn't exactly sleepy, but it certainly wasn't the volume of traffic that it is now. And I think the state would do well to be aware of that and um, in their long range planning as well. So I certainly would support us, doing that intervention and would join in the whatever the Westford Select Board, we can coordinate something. It would have more impact. I agree.
I think just like you're saying there, is it possible, would it go a long way if Underhill also submitted something with Westford too? Would that help the Westford line too? Because Joy, I'm definitely going to submit a letter with Westford as well. And I appreciate your letter, by the way, and your concerns about my daughter. I think that goes a long way too. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I will submit a letter to Westford as well. And I think that getting the study would be great.
I was going to come across the road, but then I was like, I can't do that.
That was a hard scene to watch. Actually, I believe Bob, I believe you were on scene, if I'm not mistaken. That was one of the most traumatic accidents that we've had there, and so, but nonetheless, I'm wondering, would Underhill be able to, also submit a letter at Westford too, saying, listen, we're looking at this too, and I think that would kind of go a long way. But
Certainly, we'll implement that any way that we need to communicate. And
I communicate with Nanette all the time. She's town administrator there. We can, if you go to Westford and talk with them, I think what would be good for the record for our minutes is Joy Atherton, you just state your name and your legal address, and the same with you, just so you may have done that in the beginning. I just want to make sure that our recorder gets this for the record.
Oh yeah, my Joy Atherton, 22 Duffy Hill Road. My mailing address is Underhill, but my physical address is Westford.
and again, it's Emery Roy, and it's 910 Vermont Route 15.
And you're an Underhill resident, correct? Yeah. Just for the record,
I'm sorry, and I am an Underhill resident for sure. Yes.
okay, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Patty has her hand up. I don't know if was that an aye, Patty, or did you have something?
Patty, did you have something before we vote? Her hand is shaking a little bit. Maybe Patty is voting. It looks like a vote. I will say aye. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? Hearing none, this motion carries 3-0. Thank you again for the two of you and for letting us know.
Oops, it's 7:02, and Joy, we're going to move on with our business, but you're welcome to stay.
Yeah.
If you want to leave, you just hit that X down there in the bottom.
Yeah.
But
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So 7:02, and the next thing on the agenda is to review and consider final grant agreement for the Harvest Crossing Affordable Housing Project Planning Grant, and to adopt resolution form PM-1. And Dan Mance is here. As we know, he's very intimately involved in the Harvest Crossing project. But I included the full grant agreement in your packet. And as the cover letter says, prior to signing the grant agreement in the GEAR system, which is the online portal that I have credentials to get into and to authorize documents to be accepted or to be transmitted, we are to adopt a resolution form PM1, and the form states that the acceptance and responsibility of the terms and conditions of the grant agreement, and designates the person with the overall responsibility and authority to execute all appropriate documents. It seems to me like we did this once upon a time, or was it a little different, Dan?
Yeah, I think it was very similar. I'll back up and give you just 1 minute of the history. So the church was interested in working on this project. We were interested in applying to the Vermont Community Development Program for this $50,000 planning grant. As a church, we're not an eligible entity for the application. It has to be a municipality. And so the arrangement, which is common, I gather, is the municipality makes the application, and then we have a sub-grantee agreement with the church, between the church and the town. So I think the initial action that you took, the initial resolution that you passed, was to authorize the application of the grant. So we could go ahead and submit the grant application. It was accepted by the Vermont Community Development Program. Now, the effect of this resolution is to say, yes, the town of Underhill accepts the grant conditions listed in this rather extensive document, which we've had and known about for a long time. The effect is that we will be now authorized to start submitting requests for reimbursement. We can draw down out of the $50,000 grant that's been allocated. To get to this point, we had to complete certain steps. We had to do the environmental assessment, do a wetlands assessment, do an archaeological assessment, get an appraisal of the property done, that those sorts of things. All of that's been completed. We have all of that documentation now submitted to the state. And so they have reached the point where they're now asking Underhill, okay, are you willing to have Brad sign off as committing to their administrative requirements so that we can begin funding this project, is really sort of the essence of it.
Maybe the match would be another thing to just make sure that people understand the match in the grant agreement itself.
Yeah, if you look at the budget details, and I'm not sure I'm on the right page, but
it's early on, it's third page.
Third page. You look at, if you look at that, there's
the actual, go right to the very, click on the bookmarks.
There we go.
No,
I don't have
the
the
bookmarks on the.
It's here.
Oh.
It's on that one.
Yeah, but I wanted to point out to you on the official grant document itself. Are you at the first page?
Hang on. No, I don't have the bookmarks on here.
Okay.
I just got the PDF open. Sorry.
It's page 3 of that bookmarked section. And it's actually the grant award detail. This you're looking for.
There we go. Oh, okay.
So that's the
answer. Yeah, okay. On the form. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the grant itself is for $50,000. There was a fairly small, I think it was maybe a 10% match, something like that was required. And so we agreed to submit for that match an in-kind contribution, non-monetary contribution of labor time from staff here at the town offices that they would spend working on processing the reimbursement requests, other assistance that might be necessary in managing the grant. And similarly from the church, we have a commitment to provide some of that in-kind contribution as well. So that's why there's a little bit more than the $50,000 in there.
So this is a really big deal for this project and a culmination, kind of. Is that correct?
I would say it's we are crossing yet another of the many hurdles in this project. The good news is we have the environmental assessment. We know where the wetlands are in there. We have passed the archaeological assessment. There are no significant concerning archaeological artifacts in the field that couldn't be disturbed by construction that we'd have to work around. We've hired an engineer. The engineer is now putting a site plan together that will ultimately get us at some point to the development review board, where we will show the site plan and have more discussion about subdivision of the property into lots that we intend to sell then to Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity. Great news is we have this $50,000 planning grant. We've had a $10,000 feasibility grant from the Vermont Community, no, oh, forget the funding group, another group that supports development of affordable housing. We have a commitment of $200,000 of HUD money that Senator Sanders helped to arrange. We've raised about $90,000 now in contributions towards this program. I feel like there is really very, very good support from those that are interested in seeing this done. And I think it's consistent with the town plan. We are working to, do this in a way that is site appropriate, will meet the interests and requirements of the Development Review Board, and provide really attractive, adequate, affordable housing, which this town so badly needs.
And for the public record, this is not a money item for us to be voting on.
Correct.
And it is no funds from the town or the taxpayers. We are merely voting on it because we are somewhat, I don't know, if gatekeepers is
You're the conduit.
Conduit is a better thing, so that the grants can be applied for and then can be generate support. So I just want to make that very clear.
Yeah, so basically we're at the end of the line. This is the final grant agreement and and we've set down this path, and this is typical of all grant agreements. I guess what needs to happen is the grant agreement resolution to adopt that and then sign that. So I left it intentionally blank here for the two places. It seems like my name would go in number 3. I'm a little confused of number 2 on the grant agreement part, and I tried to reach out to Patrick Sheld, but I was unable to get hold of him.
I think it's your name in
Both places.
Both places. Right.
Brad, can you give us an appropriate motion?
Yeah, so I would, Bob has his hand up. I don't know if he has something to.
Yeah, Bob,
Sorry.
go ahead.
No, we're thinking in the same wavelength there. It's just, if you could give us what you're looking for an appropriate motion, I'd move to go along with that. So I'm a little ahead of myself here or whatever. So please go ahead and draft what you think would be an appropriate motion.
So I guess the motion would be to accept the final grant agreement for the Harvest Crossing Affordable Housing Project. It's a planning grant, and to accept and agree to the terms and conditions of said grant agreement. And
Can we add in the price tag in there as well for clarity?
what's that?
This is Patty. Can you add the $50,000 grant request amount?
Yeah, it's the $50,000. Well, it's a grant. It's the grant we applied for was for $50,000, and this is the grant agreement. Yes, it's a $50,000 planning grant. Planning grant.
For the motion, I just think it should be clear that that's included in it.
Yeah, let me start over then. So the motion would be to accept the final grant agreement in the amount of $50,000, planning grant agreement for $50,000, and to move that the legislative body of this municipality accepts and agrees to the terms and conditions of said grant agreement. And furthermore, designates Brad Holden, town administrator, to have overall administrative responsibility for the activities related to the grant, and designates the authority to execute the grant agreement and other such documents as may be necessary to secure these funds.
So moved.
It's a second from Patty.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes carry this motion 3-0.
I would also just like to say before I think I'll depart now. That's the last piece of business I had for the night. But I really want to thank the select board for helping us with this. I want to thank the staff here in the town office. Between Jen Silby-Katz and Brad, these folks have huge technical expertise that is really useful in making this thing work. We are fortunate to be doing business with people we're doing business with, and we recognize that. So we thank you all much.
And I'll just say that, you know, the credit too should go to the church, because if you got incredible staff of volunteers, and they work really hard, weekly meetings. So
We thank you all.
it's a great cause.
Excited to see what can come of this project.
We are too.
Thanks, Dan. So it's 7:16 and we're on the town administrator updates. So I do have a update regarding, I didn't include anything in your packet, but on the CDL entry level driver training update, we kind of talked about that at our special meeting when you adopted the budget. So I reached out to Vermont Local Roads and spoke with them about it. And so here's the scenario. If our municipality wanted to become register as a training municipality for CDLs, they will help us fill that paperwork out. So we would provide, basically there's no charge. Vermont Local Roads would help us. So the behind the wheel training would be done here, town of Underhill. The only criteria we need is whoever's providing the training needs to have had a CDL for at least 2 years of the type that they're training the trainee for. So if they have a type A and they're training, say, one of our people that has a type B to become a type A, Dwayne, for example, has been a type A for a long, long time. He could train one of our people to upgrade to a type A. And then if we wanted to train a new person without a CDL, any one of our road crew employees could be a trainer. So in addition to that, the Vermont Local Roads program would take care of any tutorial work. So any of the online or the schooling part of it, the actual paper part or the online part, they would provide for free. So we basically just have to register as a town. You don't have to designate who the trainee is or the trainer is. So we register and that's it. So I guess I would suggest, if you guys want to go this route, it's not going to do any harm to register and be ready. I guess that leads to the second question that the recruiter really had, was regarding the road commissioner position, is, if there was someone that did not have a CDL, would you be amenable to interviewing that person knowing this new information, I guess is the question.
So first, I think we should move in that direction to get the training component taken care of. I think that's a logical next step for the town. And I believe that, the select board would be interested in seeing what, what candidates are out there. And we would take that under consideration, whether or not someone does or does not have a CDL, but we have received very little information from them regarding, possible candidates. So,
Yeah, this is Patty. I completely agree with what Bob just said. I think it makes complete sense to move towards, and if we had an applicant that did not have a CDL,
I guess it would be good to make that clear, or have you guys make that clear, because, in the job description, it's a requirement, to have a CDL. So this would give them a lot of good guidance if you're willing to consider folks without a CDL.
Can we
well,
do that by consensus?
or why don't we have the recruiter come to a select board meeting? I think that there needs to be a better connection between the recruiter and the select board to get a better understanding of what we're up against and to try to clear any obstacles that may be in our way so that we can start talking about some potential candidates, because this has been going on for quite some time. And I feel that we really need to talk to the recruiter.
Okay, I can certainly set that up for next time or a special time. And if you're willing, I can start trying to figure out this paperwork for the training, if that's the way you'd like to go.
I think that that's a good consensus from the three of us. I don't think we need to make a motion on that, but authorizing Brad to go ahead and work on that. And I thank Bob for bringing the idea to the fore in the first place and noticing that that was an option. I think that was great insight, and this will be a real asset for us, I believe.
Okay, so the next thing just to share is the annual report by the Vermont State Police. And just for those out there that are listening, we do not contract with the Vermont State Police, but they do provide us with annual statistics. And I don't know if I just included it in your packet. I don't know if you wanted me to read that into the record or.
I don't know that we need to read the whole thing, but it does have a lot of statistics of what they all do.
I guess I was just referring to the Underhill portion of it.
Okay, yeah, why don't you read that?
Well, in the essence of saving time, can we just add the report to the official minutes of the report? I've read
Sure.
our packet. I really don't need to necessarily have that regurgitated, and make the report part of the record. Those that wish to see it, they certainly can, view that statistical data if they wish.
Sounds good. I'll share that with Donna. And so the last thing is the town hall space. So the Conservation Commission would like to have a guest speaker on March 23rd. And keeping in mind that, once the new select board is formed after town meeting, you'll be setting a schedule. But if we're on the current schedule we are now, March 23rd is a select board meeting night. They're requesting the use of this space upstairs. So I'm just asking, I wonder if you would be agreeable to that and to meet downstairs.
My opinion is that that would work fine. We've got a good setup down there as well.
Or we could probably find a different night to meet so that those on the board, if they're interested, could attend that if they're having a guest speaker come in. So there wouldn't be necessarily a conflict, and we could give the conservation committee the attention that they probably deserve for having a special guest speaker coming on board. I wouldn't be opposed to changing that to accommodate them, I guess is what I'm trying to convey.
Okay, so
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
think
hearing
either
is,
way, works. If we needed to move downstairs and meet, we can do that. And as Bob said, if it's a great speaker and we want to attend that meeting, then we can just reschedule the March meeting.
so you want to just take care of that at the organizational meeting?
Yeah, let's approve that space request, and then we can work around that. And like I said, we don't really have any meetings scheduled on the agenda yet because we set that, and we can take that into consideration.
Yeah, I'd just like to let them know if the space is available, that's all, and we can figure out the details later.
Yeah, please do that.
Right on time, 7:25.
So we have a closing comment period. Was there, wait a minute, was there one more thing you wanted to add at the
Oh, I'm
end?
sorry, yeah, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Let me just pull it out here. Thank you for reminding me. It's been a long day. So yeah, the Energy Committee, and I emailed it to Bob and Patty, and Dan, you have a copy of it in front of you, but it looks, yeah, they just want to do some research on ground source heat pumps, and I believe this is in conjunction with an ARPA request. So basically, the little short synopsis is what they're looking to do, and they just want to work with Energy Vermont. There's a no-cost system to do the analysis, and they basically, Efficiency Vermont just wants a customer release and consent form.
And the ground source heat pump would be for what building?
This is at Town Hall here, I believe.
I
Yeah, I
think
think this makes
whatever information we can gather, I think will be a benefit to them. The Energy Committee does a lot, and whatever input that they can get from Efficiency Vermont would be valuable. And I would certainly support that.
Yeah, I would support it too.
Yep, no problem.
So if agreeable, I can sign the release
Yeah,
form.
that's the consensus that I hear.
Yep.
Sounds good.
So now people are lining up to make their closing comments. Is there anyone who wishes to do that in this closing public comment period? Hearing nothing and seeing nothing, we can go on to warrants and minutes.
I'm not sure how you wanted to handle the joint meeting minutes. I kind of, in the past when we've met, we really haven't approved those, but I put them in there I just wanted to know how you wanted to handle them. I mean, really, they're joint minutes, and they probably should be improved by both boards, but
Yeah, they probably would need to approve it as well.
so seeing how Jericho, I don't think they work. So by law, we just have to post draft minutes. We don't have to have approved minutes, but it's customarily been Underhill's practice to approve minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it's your pleasure. I just stuck them in there.
Okay, well, let's start with the warrants. I move that we approve the AP warrants for 1/26/2023. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? You saw those in the packet, not the individual things, but the list. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries 3-0. I move that we approve the payroll warrants for 1/19/2023. Is there a second on that?
Yes, second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes carry that motion 3-0. Moving on to minutes. So we have the joint meeting that Brad just noted. I move that we approve the Underhill portion.
Second.
Thursday, January 12th meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Are you guys still there?
Yes.
Bob, are you in favor of the minutes?
Yes. These are the minutes that were for January 5th,
January 12th.
January
The
12th.
joint,
Yep.
yeah, and we can approve R and sign ours anyway. All
Yes.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. The ayes carry it 3-0. I should note that I just noticed on the screen that there was a public comment from someone named Carol.
Yes, I did not see that.
And I just wanted to go back to that and recognize that. And Carol mentioned, what about getting input from the town? Lots of people are not in favor of this project. I'm not knowing what project specifically she's talking about, but I'm assuming that it's the United Church.
The Harvest Crossing project, yes.
Yeah.
The affordable housing project. Unfortunately, she didn't speak up, but it's up to you how you want to handle that comment, but you've already read it, so.
Yeah, and I think making that public, and I would assume that that would be part of their mission, would be to, have some hearings on that. And
Well, there will be a process, a judicial, quasi-judicial process with the Development Review Board, so.
I know, and that's where the public really can get involved.
Correct.
At this point, we're just in the grant phase and the study phase. So if Carol hears this on the tape, she's not here anymore, that would be an option. But I appreciate the public comment that you put in there. So moving on to the minutes, I move that we approve the Thursday, January 5th regular select board meeting minutes. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
second that.
With a few corrections.
And can you say what those are?
Yep. I'm trying to find it. It was just like a spacing issue. I'm trying to find it. It was one of the bullet points for we're talking about, and I apologize for it taking a little while here.
Which is the topic that you're finding this, Bob?
Hold on.
Oh, was it, Bob? Was it on the first page there where there's a gap in the two sentences?
Yeah, I mean,
Or
it was something. It was a bolded area. Where is it? It was like 2 hour, and it was like it wasn't spaced right. I mean, most people would, get it. It just needed like a little tweak, and it was perfect. It was just I can't find it. I'm trying to. I should have printed the minutes.
Do you
This is
want to put these
the
on
January
hold?
5th. Well, this is the Thursday.
Jim?
This is our meeting minutes, not the joint one.
Right,
correct.
this is our meeting, and I said regular select board. That wasn't a regular one, was it?
Um,
It says 6:45, and I know I called in because I was sick.
it was not a regular meeting, no.
Right. Why don't we put that one on hold, and we can make sure it's,
Oh, here it is.
done.
So on page 85, it says Bob moved to add the proposed fiscal year 24 budget, the cost of upgrading our topography. I think it was our topography it was to the 15 cm. Patty seconded the motion, was passed. That's where it was. It was the topography for the taking of the pictures there. It's on page it's showing up as like
Four
85.
of, four of the
Page
minutes,
4.
page 4.
Right.
Page 4. Oh, yeah.
And what was wrong with it? It's,
Well, is that what it's is that the orthopathy? I know I'm not pronouncing that right, but is that I don't think that's not the right word.
oh yeah, it is, orthophotography.
Orthophotography is the right word. Well, then
Correct.
I will add that. I
Yes.
will add that to my list of words to improve my my vocabulary.
You could stick a hyphen in there, but it's not necessary.
Thank you, Brad. You'll be
Sounds like a
my
dental.
you'll be my phone a friend when I get to Jeopardy or something like that.
Well, the important thing is that Donna knew what it was.
Yeah, very
Donna
good.
earns her keep. Let me tell you. Maybe I should be calling Donna and not Brad.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes carry that motion 3-0. I move that we approve another joint Jericho Underhill Select Board meeting minutes. Wait,
Yes,
we had
there's
one
two.
on January 5th as well.
Yes,
For January 5th, 2023.
that's when we went down to Jericho.
Okay, that was correct. That was on the fire department, and I was remote on that one too. Is there a second?
Second.
Second it.
Any discussion? All all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes carry that motion 3-0. And finally, the regular select board meeting minutes for January 12th, 2023. Is there I move that we approve those. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion on that one?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries 3-0. And now we have member items, correspondence, announcements.
The only thing I could add is Bob and Patty, if you could come in to sign the warning before, if you come tomorrow, it'd be awesome, but Monday at the very latest, because I need to get it in the town report so we can get it to the printer.
I'll be there tomorrow morning.
Yep, I can be there. I'll swing by some point tomorrow.
Great.
Good, yeah, we have the articles to sign and also the select board report that the three of us can sign. So I would move that we enter executive session for under 1 VSA paragraph 313A3 for the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. The motion carries 3-0. We are in executive session, and we will come out and probably make a statement of an action and adjourn. So whoever is here from MMC TV can probably leave. And of course,
We'll just keep it running and do what we normally do, come back and
yeah, we can keep it
close the
running.
meeting.
I move that we exit executive session and return to open session. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 We have returned to open session, and the action item is that we're wanting Brad to do some research on other towns and begin drafting an incident report form that we can use for different purposes. I move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at
8:10.
8:10 p.m.